What's up, everybody? It's your girl Candace Rose, and here we are back with another video. So this one is going to be a little bit different. No, this is not becoming a tennis channel. However, this is a channel that follows my interests, and tennis is, I wouldn't say it's new, but it's a re-emerging interest. This is my fourth US Open. If you saw my vlog that just came out, this is my fourth US Open, first US Open as an adult spectator. The other three, I was working the event, so it's a little bit of a different experience this year. I learned a lot. I enjoyed a lot of tennis. I've been watching more tennis than I've ever watched, especially since I'm playing now. So I just wanted to get into it. I don't know who else wants to get into tennis or has just gotten into tennis and is trying to learn how the games are played and that sort of thing. So this video is for you. This is what I've learned, and I just want to share the knowledge for anybody who wants to watch it, pick up on it, who just saw the last US Open and wants to kind of learn the rules as the season comes to an end and, we get ready to go into fall, winter, and then the season's going to start back up again. Yeah. So if we're looking at a tennis court front on, right? And you see how it has the main box, and then there's a line through the middle, and then there's two lines on the horizontal. There's two lines on either side going vertically. So the first horizontal line closest to you when you stand on a tennis court is called the baseline. The second one is called the service line. So let's get that straight, because everything I'm about to say right now is about those two lines. So when you first serve, you have to serve from the baseline. That's that move when they, bounce the ball and throw it up and hit it. Right? That's a serve. Okay, you always start on the right-hand side and your opponent starts on their right-hand side. That is called the deuce side. So you start on the deuce side with your serves, cool, and you have to serve in between the service line and the net on your opponent's side. So it has to bounce in that box in order for it to be considered a good serve. If you serve and the first bounce is anywhere outside of that, it's considered a fault, in which case you have to do it over. If you get two faults, it's called a double fault, and you give points to your opponent. Okay, so for scoring, that's the part that, everybody wants to do. So the way the scores go is 15, 30, 40, and then you get the point for the game. Yeah! How it works is after that first serve, the ball is allowed to bounce one time. It doesn't have to bounce. You can definitely hit it before it bounces on your side. But if it bounces, it has to bounce within anywhere between the baseline and the net in order to be considered inbounds. Now, so you see how I spoke about those two areas on the outer rim of the court. Those are for doubles only. So doubles is when it's 2 against 2 on the tennis court. That is the only time that that's considered inbounds. And unlike basketball, if it hits the line, it's considered inbounds. That's how you get very close shots, aces, all of those kind of things. But what I will say is that if you're playing singles, 1 against 1, then those are considered out of bounds. I know it's the same color as the court, but the game is the game. You have to hit the line or in between the two, vertical spaces in order for it to be considered in. Anything outside of that, if you hit it too far past the baseline, it's considered out of bounds and your opponent gets the score. So in terms of winning a tennis match, so in order to win a tennis match, you have to win best out of 3 sets. In order to win a set, you have to win up to 6 games. Well, you have to be the first to reach 6 wins by 2. So remember how I said tennis scoring is 15, 30, 40, and then you get the point for the game? You have to do that You have to do that 6 times. And if we stop at 6, that means you had 4 or less. If it was just me and you playing, that means you have 4 or less wins. So I need to have 6 and you need to have 4. If I have 6 and you have 5, that means I need to get to 7 before you get to 6. I hope that made sense. So the only way it's going past 6 is if I'm not winning by 2. What I will say about tennis is that also is true in each game that you play. So if I get to 40 and you have 30, then I need to, basically score on the next rally in order to get the point toward my sets. But if we tie at 40, then I need to basically score twice on you in order to win, as well as you need to score twice on me in order to win. So that's why tennis matches can go on for hours, because you have to score a lot. There are also no time clocks. There's one time clock. There's a serve clock. That's the only clock there is. So you have a certain amount. If it's your time to serve, you have a certain amount of time to serve, or else it's considered a point to your opponent. Keep that in mind as well. That's the only clock. That's why, some of tennis matches have gone for 3 hours. I believe this past US Open, one of the tennis matches went for 5. It can go for a pretty long time, especially if the players are evenly matched and both playing really good tennis. Okay, so there are a few vocabulary words I feel like you should know when it comes to tennis so that you understand what's going on. You might hear the are they called umpires? The announcers? Not really sure. Referees? Not really sure their job title. But you might hear them say the word love. So they don't say 0 in tennis, they say love. So if I have 15, so I scored a point on you, and you have 0, they're going to say 15 love. Right. They also don't say there's a tie. They call it all. So if it's 15 to 15, they say 15 all, meaning we both have 15. Cool. Okay, so a deuce. When you hear the commentators or whoever saying it's a deuce, or a second deuce or whatever, that means we are tied at 40. I'm going to explain the second deuce in a second. But a deuce is I have to score twice. Well, we're tied at 40. We both have to score twice in order to win this game. But there's nothing really after a deuce before you win. Like, there's no number. So they call that advantage point. So if I score again after we're tied at 40, then I get the advantage point. However, if you score right after that, instead of me scoring again for the second time to win the game, then we go back to a deuce, and it's called a second deuce because there's no number and there's no double advantage point because there's no advantage. We're tied again. So yeah, that's how you get a second deuce. That's what a deuce is, and that's what the advantage point is. Okay, so with the switching, there's a lot of switching around. I mean, most sports switch around, but tennis is a little different, as I've been, explaining this whole time. So I expressed that when you serve from the deuce side of the court at first. So between serves and between points, you switch which side. So the right side is the deuce side, and the left side is the ad side. That's also true for doubles. So there's 4 people on the court. It's a little more crowded, But all the rules still apply in terms of serving. Your opponent, more or less, they duck down. You see a lot of your opponents, more or less, they duck down. They get small. You see that happening a lot. So it's kind of just that kind of a situation, that kind of an environment where you just have to be like aware of your partner and try not to get hit and try not to hit anybody. That's kind of just how that goes. I've seen people get hit. It doesn't look fun because when you have somebody like Ben Shelton who serves at 140 miles an hour, and you have somebody, even the women serve like 90, 100, 110s, that ball's coming fast. And if you know what a tennis ball feels like, it's not the hardest ball, but it's not the softest ball for sure. It's you don't want to get hit with that at 140 miles an hour. So, yeah. Aside from that, with switching, they switch courts. So they switch on every odd number of games. So after the first game, they switch. They have like a water break or whatever, and they switch. And then they don't switch again until the third game, and then the fifth game, and then the seventh game. So it's like that. They switch in every odd number of games. I don't really know why it's a rule, but it is the rule that is the switching. Last thing I'm going to talk about is tennis etiquette. Now, the U.S. Open was a little chatty. It was a little chaotic this year, in my opinion, from what I know about tennis etiquette. But in general, when the players are playing, you don't hear anything. You don't speak. You don't cheer. None of that is going on when the players are actually playing. It takes a lot of focus and a lot of concentration for tennis. And you're very close to the court. You know, the audience starts very close to the court, so it is what it is. You don't talk during tennis. You don't really move around. You cheer and all of that when it's kind of like a dead ball, when the ball is not in play. The umpire will tell you to quiet down. They will. I've seen it. I've heard it. They will tell the audience or wait for the audience to stop cheering, to start quieting down. And the audience on cue, because it's been the etiquette and the culture of the sport for so long, will be quiet. So if you have been to like a basketball game or any game where like the seats come right on the court, when the ball is in play, you can't walk out to your seat. The same is true for tennis. It's usually true at all levels of the stadium. That just depends on how, the security is kind of policing the area at the time. But you can't, when the ball's in play, you can't go down there. Honestly, when the set is in play, a lot of times you can't go down there because the games happen back to back to back, and your movement and all of the trying to get to your seat and everything might cause an issue. So yeah, you might have to wait until that game is over. Maybe not the whole set, but you might have to wait until the game is over to go to your seat, and you just have to plan accordingly. Like, obviously, in terms of leaving, you can leave whenever, but like, who really wants to leave in the middle of, the play? Unless, I guess, you're trying to beat the lines for like bathroom and food before the end. I don't know. But that's generally the rule and the etiquette. People have a good time. They drink, they cheer. I've seen a few hecklers in between points. So, yeah, I've given you all the knowledge that I have accumulated over the years, and just enjoy the next time you play.